Hello everyone, welcome to today's video on finding the whole in percent problems. So we've already learned how to find the part and how to find the percent, so this is the last component, finding the whole. Alright, so again we're going to be using the percent proportion, which is part divided by whole is equal to percent divided by 100, as well as the percent equation, and that's just a version of the percent proportion, but we multiply both sides of the equation by the whole. And we get that the part is equal to our percent divided by 100 times the whole. Okay, so we're just going to have two examples and two u-tries. So for our first example, we have that Miss Deliotis bought a car. Look at me go. When she bought the car, she had to pay a 6% tax on the sticker price of the car. So the sticker price is like what they're advertising the price of the car is. She paid $480 just for the tax. Cars are expensive. What was the sticker price of the car and how much money total did you pay for the car? So again, the tax on the car came out to $480. And we're trying to figure out, okay, then how much was the sticker price of the car? What was the cost of the car that they were advertising? Okay, so like usual, let's go through our word problem and identify what information we're given. Our part is going to be this $480. That's the amount of money we paid for tax. Remember when we were in our last video, we were trying to find the part, we were finding the amount of the tax, the amount of the tip. Those are always going to be things that we think of as the part. Okay, and then we have our percent. Of course, there is a 6% tax, so our percent is 6%. And then what we're trying to find is going to be that whole. So that's going to be the sticker price of the car, cost of the car. And then that last question is how much do I pay total? So once I figure out the sticker price and the amount of the tax, then I can add those together to say the total amount I would pay. Okay, so that's going to be like a final step. All right, so we're going to solve this using both the percent proportion and the percent equation. Okay, so again, my part was $480. So that's going in my numerator on the left-hand side. The whole is what I'm trying to find, so I'm just going to leave that as is. I have 100, that's going to stay as my denominator on the right, and my percent is 6%. So now I have this proportion, $480 divided by the whole is equal to 6 divided by 100. So like usual, I'm going to be trying to find this factor. I could multiply by to get from 6 to 480. And then once I figured out that factor, I can then multiply 100 by the same factor. That's how I would come up with my equivalent ratio in a proportion, and then that's going to tell me the whole. So off to the side, I'm thinking 6 times what number is going to be equal to 480. Okay, if I need to solve that like an equation, I can by dividing both sides by 6. But I can do that in my head because I know that 6 times 8 is 48. So that means that 6 times 80 is going to be 480. But like I mentioned, if I wasn't sure, I want to think about another way to do that. When you divide both sides by 6, we get 480 divided by 6, and that is 80. Okay, so that's going to be my factor here. 6 times 80 is 480. So for my denominator, to come up with my equivalent ratio, I can multiply 100 times 80, and 100 times 80 is 8,000. So we get 480 divided by 8,000 is equal to 6 divided by 100. Thus, I was trying to find my whole here, which I did. That's my red denominator, is 8,000. So that means that the sticker price of my car was $8,000. Like I said in the problem, cars are expensive. And then I paid a 6% tax on the car, and that came out to $480. So that was the sticker price. But unfortunately, I had to pay more. I had to add that tax. So then we're going to add the 480, and that's going to give me $8,480. So that would be the final price I paid. So there we go, I'm answering both my questions. All right, awesome. So now let's try to find that 8,000, that sticker price whole, using the percent equation method. So as usual, I'll rewrite the base percent equation. And now I'm going to substitute in the information I have. So I have 480 for my part, and I have 6 for my 6%. Okay, so at this point, I have an equation, and I need to solve the equation for my whole. So I'm going to ask myself, like I always ask myself when I'm solving equations, what's currently happening to my variable, or the missing part here, which is my whole, and then how am I going to undo what's currently happening to that? Okay, so I can see that my whole is currently being multiplied by 6/100. So how do you undo multiplying by 6/100? You divide by 6/100. Okay, so I can divide both sides by that fraction 6/100. We'll go ahead and do it that way. We could also convert it into a decimal, which I would say is easier with a calculator, so I'll do that in my later examples, but if I want to do it by hand, that's harder. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by 6/100. And on my right-hand side, that's pretty easy. I get that my 6/100 are canceling away because I'm taking a number and dividing it by itself, so that's always equal to 1. And we just get our whole on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, I need to do 480, and then I'm dividing by 6/100. Remember that when you're dividing by a number is the same thing as multiplying by that number's reciprocal, or that when we flip the numerator and the denominator. So this is equal to 480 times 100 divided by 6, or 106, because that is the reciprocal of 6/100. And then at that point, I'm going to try to do this multiplication, multiply straight across. And again, when you do that workout, you're going to get 8,000. So you multiply straight across, you have 480 times 100. That's going to end up just adding 2 zeros after 480. So we get 48,000, and then divided by 6 in our denominator. And again, I know 48 divided by 6 is 8. And then you just carry those 3 zeros along. Okay, so again, my whole becomes $8,000. That's the sticker price of the car, and then we add the $480 as tax, and I get $8,480 as the final amount that I pay. All right, so you can go ahead and you can try our next example. You are allowed to use the percent proportion or the percent equation. That's up to you. We have that a 20% tip on a meal came out to $4. What was the subtotal of the meal or the cost of the food? Okay, so this, I'm trying to have you, of course, find the whole, where we're given our percent of 20%, and the amount of the tip was $4. So that's going to be our part. Okay, so either method, go ahead and try this and find the subtotal of the meal, the cost of the food. Okay, and you should have gotten $20. So I use the percent proportion method. If you use the percent equation method, that's fine too. But for the percent proportion, we can see 4 times 5 is equal to 20, so 20 divided by 5 equals 4. So to come up with an equivalent ratio to 20/100 that has a numerator of 4, you're going to divide 100 by 5 as well. And then you get 4/20, so that means our whole is equal to $20. So that means the cost of the meal is $20. Then we're going to have to add a $4 tip, so that would come out to $24, and then at a restaurant there would probably be tax too. But that's going to be just the cost of the food. Now, like usual, let's see an example where the numbers aren't as nice. So we have example 2. Middle school students surveyed a group of their classmates about their opinion on whether they would prefer to have the same section classmates for all of middle school, or if they'd rather switch each year. Do they want to have the same class for all of middle school, or every grade it's changing? 40% of the students surveyed said they would prefer to switch each year. If 154 people said they would prefer to switch each year, how many people were interviewed total? Okay, so there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of words, but we just need to break it down. What information are they giving us? And then we can solve for the missing piece. Okay, so again, the percent is always easy to find. We're told that 40% of the students surveyed said they would prefer to switch. That's going to be my percent. And then we need to figure out, are they giving us the part or the whole? So 140 people said they would prefer to switch sections. How many people were interviewed total? So when we're seeing a word like total, right, that's going to signify our whole. We're trying to find how many people were in total interviewed. So what we're trying to find in this problem is our whole. And then 154 people, that's the part, that's the number of the total who said they would prefer to switch sections. And that's 40% of the total. Okay, so now I have my proportion. So now I can do what I always do, try to find a factor or a divisor to get from 40 to 154. Okay, so how do I get from 40 to 154? Again, I'm going to do it off to the side. I'm trying to figure out 40 times what is going to give me 154. Now that's not something I can easily do in my head. I would either have to use a calculator or use long division. So we're going to divide both sides by 40. And when you do 154 divided by 40, you'll get 3.85. Okay, so 40 times 3.85 is equal to 154. Thus, to find the whole, I'm going to do the same thing to the denominator, 100 times 3.85. And I can do that in my head. 100 times 3.85, multiplying a number by 100 just moves the decimal place over 2. So that's going to give me a whole of 385. So I get the proportion 154 divided by 385 is equal to 40 divided by 100. Okay, so then I have my whole here. 385 people is the total number of people that were interviewed. And then 154 of them said they would prefer to switch sections each year. So that is equal to 40 divided by 100, which means 40% of 385 people is equal to 154. And the way I just phrase it there is connecting to the percent equation. 154, that's my part, it's equal to 40% of my whole, which I just found out using the percent proportion is 385, but now let's do it here. Okay, so this time I'm going to show you how we could do this with a decimal and with a calculator. So 41 hundredths, we should be able to convert pretty easily into a decimal. When we read it, 41 hundredths, that's going to be equivalent to 41 hundredths that we could write in decimal form. Since our denominator is 100, then we can go to the 100th place, 2 decimal points, and fill in 40. So my whole is currently being multiplied by 0.4. How do you undo multiplying by 0.4? Dividing by 0.4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.4, 0.40. And when I do that, either by decimal long division or by a calculator, I will again get 385. So there are 385 people. Okay, so now we have our last question. You try number 2. If Mikey got a 78.125% on a math test and earned 25 points out of the total number of points on the test, how many points was the test out of? You should have gotten 32 points. I used the percent equation method, but I also have off to the right the percent proportion. So 25 divided by 32 is equal to 78.125 divided by 100. So we're getting a 78.125% on a math test if you get 25 out of 32 points. Okay, great job, everyone.